First You Think is a not-for-profit ministry of the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Support us at ucdsm.org today.
And so we gather here today, like rivers to the sea. We share some of the water of our lives in the vessel that we call First Unitarian Church. And we do this not to dissolve or assimilate ourselves, but as a free expression of ourselves, whole and worthy and connected. Now, your vessel of water carries part of your story, your place, your memory. And I invite you to honor that story. As we share our water today, we fill this bowl with our gathered stories. For this is the water communion water from last year. And so we begin our ritual with this. May it serve to connect us to our past and guide us in our future. Next, I wish to pour out water for those of us who are gathering online. We have gathered our waters, and this water will be what starts our ritual next year. This is the water we will use for child dedications. It is a reflection of our gathered community. And so hear now this blessing from Susan Carlson. May the waters gathered here remind us of what each of us brings to this community and of the waters that nourished us before we were even born, that continue to give us sustenance and energy for our life journeys and for all creatures on this earth. May we gratefully continue to swim to the other side. It's an odd thing to move to a city during a water quality alert. As I was unpacking my boxes, the newspaper was warning me every day that the nitrate levels in our water were dangerously high. I could see that the rivers were flooding over with record-setting levels of rain, but you couldn't water your lawn with that water. It's odd to be surrounded by water and not be able to swim in the lakes. It's a new feeling. It reminded me of the rhyme of the ancient mariner, water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. If you're picking up any judgment in my tone, it's because I moved from northeast Wisconsin, drinking from the second biggest lake in the world, Lake Michigan. Now that is a body of water. But if I'm to be honest, I realize that I'm speaking about Lake Michigan like it's a fixed object. And I want to share with you all today the moment that I realized that Lake Michigan is actually never the same lake twice. As Heraclitus said, you never step in the same Lake Michigan twice. I mean, the thing we call Lake Michigan on a map, it's there. It's not going anywhere for an estimated billion years. But it's changing constantly. You see, I forgot the water cycle, which I had learned in 5th grade. Water evaporates into clouds and it floats east. It becomes Michigan's problem. Clouds from the west float over Lake Michigan and rain falls on it, changing the actual water in that lake constantly. Meanwhile, all of us surrounding that lake are pulling out water constantly and adding things back into it. So Lake Michigan's always there, but it's constantly changing. And that sent me into a whole spiral of wonder because it occurred to me that I'm 60% water and all that water is coming from Lake Michigan, so maybe I'm always changing? I'm drinking that water, I'm releasing water, millions of cells in my body are dying and millions of cells are being born with new water. That was the 9th grade biology that I forgot. And so I realized that you and I too are like Lake Michigan. We're always there, well, at least for now, but we're always changing. I'm always Steve, you're always Karen, you're always Elijah, but we're always changing. And I've learned this much about change in my life. I don't like it. I don't think you do either. So I engaged in a thought experiment, as one does. How do we keep Lake Michigan exactly the way it is today, Sunday, September 7th, 2025? No new inputs or outputs, no changes. The first strategy is we would need to seal it off, right? No evaporation, no condensation, no rain. Now, in addition to the logistical challenge of tarping 22,000 square miles of water, I realized it would kill the lake and the trillions of organisms that make it a living body of water. And then I realized that many of us have had the same thought about our own bodies at some late 20s phase of our life where we think, how can I keep it like this forever? And I think the answer to that is cryogenic freezing. And the catch to that is you're no longer alive. Change is hard. Change is the only constant. Change is hard. We've been gathering for about 50 years to merge our individual streams into this great lake that we call First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. And our lake, metaphorically, like the actual Lake Michigan, changes over time. There are folks here who've been in that seat since our first water communion, and folks for whom this is your first time sitting here. Now, I don't know how they figured this out, but I looked it up. The average drop of water in Lake Michigan lasts 62 years before it evaporates into the Great Cloud. And likewise, only a few of us in our seats today could remember the first time we did a water communion decades ago. And yet, if you are in Des Moines looking at this congregation, you see something that resembles permanence. The way we look at Lake Michigan. That's First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Now, I recognize this starts to get a little metaphysical, and we start getting into a spiral of wonder. And that's where Annie Dillard saves us from ourselves. She writes, "My God, I look at the creek. It is the answer to Thomas Merton's prayer, 'Give us time.' It never stops. You don't run down the present, pursue it with baited hooks and nets. You wait for it, empty-handed, and you are filled." And there it is. Sure, Heraclitus was right. You don't step in the same creek twice. And since we don't love change, you could look upstream instead and worry about what might yet come. Or you could look downstream and long for everything that has already flowed past you. But in this moment, this present moment, you're standing in the river empty-handed, and you are filled. You belong. You're not dissolved or assimilated, but you're also not a lonely drop of water out there on a rock, because here you belong, here, now, in this present moment. Or as she puts it, the creek is the one great giver. This old rock planet gets the present for a present on its birthday every day. Now, a smarter minister ends there, leaving you with that feeling of cosmic presence. But I feel it avoids naming the actual problem. As we breathe into and receive this present moment, this Sunday, September 7th, 2025, as we stand in the great river and feel our ease of belonging, we can ignore or get complacent with our present troubles, too. If we think back to that Lake Michigan, we didn't think too much of running all the coal-powered steamboats through it or dumping PCBs and mercury and DDT into that great lake. But then we realized this present moment is not sustainable. And we created the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. And we cleaned it up for a bit. And then we started dumping forever chemicals like PFAs. And now we're talking about that. And we're realizing that's not sustainable either. And so it goes with our own Iowa waterways as well. Just because it is the present level of nitrates in our waterways doesn't mean we have to accept it. We have to tend to these bodies of water or they will be unusable. And so it is with the church, cleaning up both the very literal creek right over there and also the figurative waterway of aging facilities. Our Dare to Dream capital campaign kicks into its next gear today, this present moment. and work will begin to make our facilities ready to serve the next 148 years. The next 148 years of water communions and weddings and memorials and children and youth and adult faith formation and small groups and concerts and festivals and interfaith work and all the thousands of other streams that merge in to flow to this great lake we call First Unitarian. We warmly invite you to join us for a fantastic brunch after the service right there so you can learn more and celebrate the work we have ahead for our campaign. It is odd. It is a weird feeling to move into a place where water is so plentiful and so dangerous, but it's not without its causes. For the same policy making that allows for drenching fields in nitrogen with no accountability for runoff has used the basic civil rights of transgender beloveds lately as a wedge issue, scoring small victories with no accounting for the cost of humanity. In these moments, I feel a natural urge to look downstream at history, to call out to our ancestors here, how did you, previous versions of this lake of First Unitarian, how did you work to create a vibrant ecosystem in the face of so much runoff? And if I don't hear the answer I'm looking for, I look upstream at the future and I ask, how will we manage the incoming flood of toxic water that comes every day? And I find myself in this anxiety dance between the past and the future. It's always been this way. Since 1877, Unitarians have gathered in Des Moines amid the runoff, the pollution, the muck of their day. And they've gathered what few streams they had to make what difference they could in their present time. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the suffragettes who marched through Des Moines in 1908 and arrived at the steps of our church to speak out, wondering how to get their voices heard in a country that couldn't imagine giving women the right to vote. I want you to imagine sitting in the pews in the congregation as the Reverend Curtis Reese preached in this metaphorical pulpit in 1917, that maybe humans themselves and not God Almighty were responsible for human welfare. I want you to sit with Edna Griffin and her 1-year-old holding a sit-in at Katz's Deli in 1948 for the right to order an ice cream. There has always been too much nitrogen in the water. That's the cost of human civilization. And the reality that all of us have to arrive at some point is that it's too much for any single stream of water to filter out. And that's why we gather. We gather our individual waters together and we try in our present moment to do what we can to make this water that we call life drinkable, to make this world more loving, just, and compassionate. And so as we begin this new church year together, I encourage you to commit to 2 practices. 25 years of teaching, I'm about to give you a homework assignment. 2 practices that I invite you to commit to. First, find a place to merge your water with others to make an impact in our community. Yes, the world is on fire in 1,000 different places and 1,000 different ways. And you can't put any of those fires out by yourself. Find one justice cause, one social justice cause that you can merge your water with others to make an impact. And as you keep pouring out that water to make the world better, you need a place to replenish, a fount, if you will. So find some place for that, a book club, a Soul Matters group, a small ministry group, a faith formation, buildings and grounds, choir, something that sustains you and nurtures you. Somewhere to put your energy, somewhere to gather it back. And the good news, as Sally pointed out, is you can meet all of those options next Sunday, September 14th, at our community fair. In this present moment, let us gather together to love radically, grow ethically and spiritually, and serve justly, for we are given the present as a present every day. May it be so.